So this past weekend I finished Sunset Overdrive, which is a really excellent open world game, and it got me thinking about the genre in general. I guess the open world gaming genre as such has been around for maybe about 10 to 15 years in what we know today, in a kind of Grand Theft Auto style. And I'm kind of thinking the last generation, the Xbox 360, PS3 era, that's when the genre kind of came into its own. We were seeing more and more of these games come out, and I'm kind of beginning to realise that some games are kind of adhering to the open world template better than others. And Sunset Overdrive is a very good example of a open world game that kind of hits the nail on the head for kind of everything you want from that type of game. I mean, let's face it, if you look at Sunset Overdrive, it's pretty much the closest we'll get to a really good Sonic game for a while, because you can do everything you can do in Sonic. You can kind of grind rails, you can jump up and down, you can kind of almost jump on enemies in a way as well. But joking about Sonic aside, I mean, the reason Sunset Overdrive for me is a far superior open world game than others is because it kind of condenses a lot of the annoying things in open world games. I mean, the biggest thing about an open world is how to get around that world. And games like Sunset Overdrive, Crackdown, the later Saints Row games, they kind of get rid of a lot of those issues. So, I think we've gone past the stage now where we drive around in cars, because most of the time in games, cars are slow, and if you want to get from one side of the map to another, unless you're fast travelling, driving around isn't always fun, depending on the mechanics involved. And a game like Sunset Overdrive, where you can run, jump, almost fly around levels, bounce upon buildings, it's fun, and it makes that experience far more enjoyable, especially in terms of something like maybe collectibles. Now, I'm a sucker for getting collectibles and trying to earn achievements, and that's just a problem I've accepted and I live with. But whether it's a game like, say, Assassin's Creed, getting the collectibles is just an absolute chore and is not fun at all, and you kind of get to the stage halfway through where you're thinking, well, why am I actually doing this? Sunset Overdrive is different because that traversal is so much fun and enjoyable. You don't mind exploring the city and getting all those collectibles, even if you're kind of taking the maps that you can buy and then kind of hunting for them on the map. I spent hours over the weekend getting every single collectible in the game, and at one point I think, well, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time, because I was having fun just bouncing around, tackling enemies, jumping up buildings, and I think that's what makes a game like that work. And you compare that to a game like Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, I like the Assassin's Creed games quite a lot, but even I'm kind of willing to admit that they're becoming flawed and becoming a bit tired as they go on, and Unity is quite an example of that. There is so much filler content in that game. The missions aren't particularly great, they're very repetitive, you're doing the same thing every time. And granted, there's a bit of repetition in every game, but in Assassin's Creed Unity, it's kind of doing the same things that other games have done. There's always the tail missions that no one likes, so why they keep putting them in, I don't know. And it's not as an enjoyable game for me. Initially, the fun of climbing up buildings in a parkour style and traversing that was fun, but now it becomes such a chore when you're having to go the other side of the map to do particular objectives, and there's no real reason for it. I mean, it's nice to have a big expanse of land that's supposed to be the size of Paris and going around it, but when you're telling me to go to like one half part of the map and then go the complete other side, then you're wasting everyone's time, especially mine. And that's kind of a big no-no in games. I play games to enjoy myself and not feel like I'm tackling chores. And, well, I think Sunset Overdrive tackles a lot of those issues. It's not perfect. That old joke in a few missions where it's like, oh, look at how funny this tired old trope is, now do that thing. But other than that, it's a really good game, and it gives me hope for other open world games in the future. I'm really looking forward to the reboot of Crackdown, because for me personally, that was the first open world game that really defined what that genre could do. Just having that power, that the ability to kind of jump over buildings, and much like Sunset Overdrive, and literally fly around, especially in a 4-player co-op experience that you had in Crackdown 2. It really was a sandbox kind of game where you could go anywhere and do everything, and that's kind of what made it very enjoyable for me. So it's very enjoyable, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that game does. I mean, hopefully we'll even see something at E3 this year. Fingers crossed. But I guess that's all I've got to say really. The open world game, the genre itself, has issues. I think it's still trying to find its feet. But I hope there are more games like Sunset Overdrive and Crackdown, and even Saints Row, because the Saints Row games are a similar kind of style, where they've kind of done that GTA thing and moved along in a far more interesting direction by just giving you all of these powers and letting you run wild, and again, like a sandbox. I guess that's all I've got to say really. If you like Sunset Overdrive, Crackdown, any of those games I've mentioned, why not give me a shout on Twitter @PugHoofGaming, or as always in the comments below. And by all means, please subscribe to our videos, like them, comment them, share them, interact with us on Twitter or on Instagram @PugHoofGaming. Still working on the website, it's nearly there, but that should be up very soon. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I shall see you around.